What's good, man? This is your boy at DFSMasterMind _ over on Twitter. Today's date is June the 6th. Man, we got, I believe, 14 games, 15 games, man. We got a monster slate. I believe every team is in action. Man, we got a bunch of stuff we need to talk about, man. But before we do that, got to give you a quick recap. Crushed on DraftKings. I won all of my tournaments over there. FanDuel, I lost all my tournaments. And the biggest difference was Jeff Samardzija. I had Jeff Samardzija in all of my lineups on DraftKings, where you had to pick two pitchers. And FanDuel, I end up going with Eddie Butler, Gio Gonzalez, and I think that was it. I ran two lineups. So I had Butler and Gonzalez. They didn't have bad games, man. I wish if Eddie Butler would have got one more out, he would have got me an extra 6 points, and I would have cashed, man. I was right below the cash line on that $6 tournament. Didn't quite make it. But, we ain't going to sweat it, man. Pretty decent night. I ain't worried about it. We're going to keep moving, keep growing, trust the process, man, and bring what we learned into today, man. But like I said, we got 15 games. I'm not going to go through all the games like I normally do. I want to try something a little different. So I'm going to literally give you more players. I know sometimes I just talk about teams and talk about stacks that I want to do, game stacks. I'm going to still do that. But I want to give you some value plays, man. So I made like a value play cheat sheet. People that that I'm going to be using in some of my lineups. Can't guarantee I'll use all of them. I wrote down quite a few names, but without further ado, man, let's hop into it, man. From this slate, looking at the slate, man, I'm definitely paying up for pitching. I'm definitely paying up for pitching. We have a ton of good options, man. I wrote down 6 pitchers that I like. Those pitchers are I like Jake Arrieta. I think I like him the most. We got the wind blowing in. Jake Arrieta's been pretty solid, man. He's been slowly putting it together. He came off a really bad start. Starting off the season, the man was terrible. We was all worried about him, I know, because after an excellent season last year, he was struggling. He was getting shelled, all kinds of stuff, man. But I think he's bouncing back, man. He's starting to get those strikeouts up there, man. Eddie Butler, he did pretty good. He went 5 2/3 versus Miami last night. So I think Jake Arrieta can do some good things, man. Especially with the same win, decent decent pitching environment for tonight, man, because that wind is blowing so hard in. I think he should be in line for a pretty good start, man. I like him. I wrote him down as my number 1. Number 2, man, Robbie Ray. We can no longer turn our heads to Robbie Ray, man. Like, the boy he's legit, man. And he has a cupcake matchup. I wouldn't say cupcake matchup because it's in a hitter's environment, which is a little scary, but he's going up against the Padres, who we know strike out a ton. One thing I can definitely say about Robbie Ray, especially if you're using him on FanDuel, he will get the quality start and he will get that W, man, because Arizona, totally different team when they play at home. I'm talking like a huge difference. If y'all look up the splits, I know it got to be something ridiculous. I'm just going off the eye test. I don't know the exact numbers, but totally different monster, man. When they're at home, they produce, man. So he'll definitely get the win on that. So I like him. Number 3, man, I wrote down Chris Archer. I think he's in a really good spot, man, going up against these White Sox. K upside is there. White Sox have an implied run total of 3.3. And I think Chris Archer, man, with his K upside, you can run him out there anytime, man. Even if he's playing up against a pretty solid team. And I don't think the White Sox really, I don't think they're going to get to him. So I think he's definitely in play. Next, I got James Paxton. I think he's in a decent spot. And I know I used to just give 2 pitchers, man. That's what I'm used to doing, or 2 or 3. I try to stick in my wheelhouse, man. But there's just so many people in good spots. I wanted to kind of touch on everybody, man. Let y'all know who I'm looking at. I still haven't made up my mind on the people that I want to necessarily use, man. I think I'm going to have to wait a little closer to lock. But these are just some people I'm looking at. The Mariners have an implied run total of 5.1. So once again, FanDuel, I think you'll get the quality start with him, get the dub. He's going up against the Twins. I think he's in a good spot, man. He's coming off that injury. He had a start. His last start, he went about 80 pitches, I believe. They had him on like an 85 pitch count. Every game from here on out, they'll just continue to increase. I think he'll see 100 pitches tonight. K upside is there. I think he's in a good spot. And then I have Marco Estrada, man. I think he's decent. I think he's looking for a bounce back, man. He's been struggling a little bit going up against the Athletics, who are not necessarily just a good offensive team, but we do have wind blowing out. I know Healy, he hit 2 bombs, I believe, last night. So they had a pretty decent win. But I think we see Marco Estrada come back in, get focused, and take care of business. And the last guy, of course, is Max Scherzer. If you want to pay up for him, go for it, man. I have no ill will. Like he's in a elite spot. Pitcher's ballpark. Man, I can't talk this morning, man. But yeah, pitcher's ballpark. We got a slight wind blowing out, but his K upside is just so ridiculous that, if you want to take a chance on him, feel free. The Dodgers, they tend to scare me a little bit, man. I always like to say that. And they're going up against a right-hander, so you will see a ton of lefties. But Max Scherzer, he's such an elite arm that he's always in play. That's going to do it for pitching. Now, I wrote down a few stacks that I'm looking at early. I like the Mets. I think they're in a really, really decent spot. They have an implied run total of 5.3 going up against Dylan G. I remember this guy from last year, man, had a few starts. I think he actually started a game this year. Let me double check that. No, he hasn't had an official start. He's been getting bullpen work. But I remember this guy from last year, man. He would have like a really solid game and then be terrible. So we don't know what type of pitcher we're gonna get. But I think these Mets, man, we got a hitter's ballpark going up against a guy who's coming out for his first start this year. I think we can look to target that, man. Next stacking option, Houston. They're going up against a reliever turned starter. I don't know this guy, Jake Junis or something like that. I don't know too much about this guy. It looks like he's made 2 appearances so far. So we're talking about the Houston Astros. So I'm loading up, dude. And one thing, if you always want to get Houston exposure, and you don't want to pay for the big 3, which are Springer, Altuve, Correa, man, go to the bottom of their lineup, man, and take a look at Bergman and Gurriel and all these guys, man, batting at the bottom, dude. If you can do that and then maybe get like a Josh Reddick, man, it tends to work out for me a lot, man. I love stacking the bottom of their lineup. They're super under-owned, and they're in the same situation that these other batters are in, man. And Springer, Altuve, Correa, they're balling right now, man. But it's a team effort, man. They're putting up so many runs. Everybody is producing, so. If you want Houston exposure, don't feel like you have to pay up for those 3 guys, man, because they're going to cost you a pretty penny. But I like them. They're in play. Another team I like to stack for today, I'm looking at Milwaukee going up against Matt Cain. I think they're in a good spot. Hitters ballpark. We got wind blowing out. I wonder if they have the roof open. Milwaukee is tough, man. Milwaukee is tough. Jeff Samardzija dominated. It was his K's though, man. It was his K's. Like he had a few. He gave up a few hits. But the K's is really what brought Samardzija so much value yesterday. But this Milwaukee lineup is tough, man. I think Matt Cain struggles a little bit, so I like them. Another team, man, I like Baltimore. We can look at them, man. Baltimore going up against Nova. I've always been a little iffy on Nova. I think he is a decent pitcher. I do. I think he's a decent pitcher. But Camden Yards, man, is a super underrated hitter's ballpark, man. And it's starting to get a little warmer. We're going to see some balls flying out, man. Baltimore, they starting to get on it, man. They're starting to have these high implied run totals, so that's something to key in on. I think they're in play. And then the last team, of course, man, and I'm not going to say Coors. Y'all know about game stacks. If you want to stack Coors, go for it. But the last one is Arizona, man. They're off a long road trip, man. They're going up against this Lamet dude who everybody is just... They're salivating over this, man. And I hope he winds up being chalk, man, because I will, if I find out that a lot of people are on him, I will heighten my Arizona stack to number one. I love to go against the chalk, go against the grain. Easy way to win a tournament, man. If the chalk don't hit, which if Lamet is chalk, man, I'm telling you, Arizona all the way. But even set aside that, man, Arizona, they're just in a good spot. We know at home they tend to put up a ton of runs in a great hitters ballpark. So that's who I'm looking at, man. Those are my stacks. Now game stacks, man. I wrote down 3 game stacks. I got the Cardinals and the Reds, both sides of that. I have Detroit and I have the Angels, both sides of that game. And then I wrote the Yankees and Red Sox down because I just think they're playing in Yankee Stadium. Good hitters ballpark. 2 decent pitchers, man. But historically, these 2 teams, they play good games, man. So, and I respect the 2 pitchers on the mound. I really do. But I will be stacking this game anyways, man, because I think we're definitely going to see a ton of runs in this, man. They're two monsters, man. So I'm gonna give me some production, and now I'm gonna try something different. I'm gonna wrap it up, but this is gonna be my value section, man. I wrote down a bunch of value bets, man. These are people on FanDuel who are 3K and under. I wrote this down because I'm paying up for pitching, man, so I don't want to suggest the top bats, and I'm paying up for pitching because you clearly can't build a lineup like that, man. So let's get into it, man. First base, I wrote down Matt Adams at 2.7. He's playing, really good ballpark. Hitter's ballpark for the Braves, left-hander going up against a righty. I think he's in play. I like Aguilar. I was talking about a Milwaukee stack. If he hits in that 3-hole, I'm locking him in at 2.3. Second base, I like Danny Espinosa at 2.4. I mentioned the Angels. I think he's in a decent spot. Cesar Hernandez, 2.9, leadoff hitter. For third base, I like Pablo Sandoval, 2.9, man. If we can get him in a Boston stack, I love it. And then the other third baseman I wrote down was Paul DeGone. He's a rookie, young buck, man, but he's been balling. Take a look at him. He's 2.4. Shortstop, Adrizel Cabrera, 2.8. I think we can find some value off him. And then Simmons for the Angels once again. Think he's in a decent spot. Then outfield, I got Kevin Pillar, Trey Mancini, Altair, Pence, Bonifacio, Perez, Andrew Benintendi, Ahara, and Adrizel Herrera, and Nick Markakis, man. All of those players I just mentioned are under 3K, man. So if you're paying up for pitching, take a look at some of those bats, man. But yeah, that's going to do it. I'm almost out of time. This is your boy at DFS Mastermind. Bless up, cash out. Thank you for watching, man.